being unscrewed because of the vibration. So there's special skill, and there's really this discipline of building high reliability products. Because if something goes wrong in space, it's very impractical or maybe even impossible to go there and fix it unless you can get George Clooney to be go on a spacewalk and try to fix it, right? So when you build things for space, you can build things for Earth in difficult environments like undersea environments, mining shafts, geothermal wells, things where you just put technology and you say forget about it because it just has to work, right? Okay, next. And so our goal to building these satellites is to bring things up the higher technology readiness levels. In a room like this, you have plenty of ideas. And you know what? You can build things for space because we can put them on platforms like this. If you come up with a new microcontroller, you can come up with a new sensor. Let's put it on a small, affordable platform like this. Let's bring it to space where it can be subject to that harsh environment. And if it survives in that harsh environment, then the value of your component goes up, right? And it becomes space qualified. So that's the goal of some of these satellite development, is to bring your ideas and technologies into higher TRL. Next slide. And so the work has begun. You know, we've engaged some local outfits, some companies. You see here, of course, we're discussing with Xinex, trying to put your IP cores into FPGAs that go into these computing units inside the satellite. So we've worked on some of these blocks, like the onboard computing, some controllers for the payloads, etc. Yeah, this is what a satellite like Diwata 3 will enable us to do. A satellite like Mula, we probably cannot experiment with it too much because, well, departments like the DA and DNR, they look forward to the data from the satellite, so we have to put tried and tested technologies there. But for other satellites that we're building, we can experiment a little bit, right? So it has a joint technology demonstration, scientific and operational mission. That's what these things are done. Let's go flip to the next two slides. This camera is right here. I think we brought it here, so we're about to fly it, soon when we work with other countries to put that camera on a satellite. Next. So this is onboard computing units, a main computing unit. Next. So these efforts, these boards were built out of the university. PhilSA engineers worked with the engineers in the university, and the local companies were contracted to do the printed circuit boards, supply the components, and usually some soldering as well, and the assemblies. Okay, on embedded systems and software development, I mentioned IP cores. There's plenty of things we can work on, I guess, starting with these CubeSats or even the experimental satellites in terms of for up conversion, digital up conversion, IP cores for that. Also for IP cores that will go into the main computing unit. So I think we are already in some kind of discussion with Xinex to have some of these ideas and technologies tested in flight. Okay, next. So our battle cry is this: angkop sa kalawakan, yari at tatak Pilipinas. So akyat. And what you see here is a blown up view of a satellite, but when we show this to the Board of Investments, we told them, there are companies here that are building solar panels, that are building sensors, that are building things for Earth. We can bridge them to space qualification, and the products that you see on your cell phones can also be used for satellites, because that's how satellites are being built now, with some commercial off-the-shelf components, but you just have to subject them to some space qualification and even test them directly on a platform like this. You can test it directly and see how it fares in that environment. Okay, next. This is in support of a pet legislation of then Senator Angara called Tatak Pinoy Act, which was recently signed by the President. Now, this Tatak Pinoy Act is about, I quote the President, is about investing in Filipino competence. It is about incubating and incentivizing great products that serve to carry the Made in the Philippines trademark. So we feel that building these electronics and being the global supply chain for space increases the economic complexity of our country. Next. There's other things coming up. Did you know that our country is an ideal location for flying rockets? into space because to our east, you fly rockets to the east. There's probably only one country that flies rockets to the west. I'll leave it at that. You can probably determine who that is. It's not because of technology, it's because of geopolitical reasons. But in our country, we can fly rockets to the east to take advantage of the Earth's rotation, and to the east is the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. And then some islands are pretty close to the equator, right? And when you have that, you can save fuel on these rockets because it will reach equatorial geostationary transfer orbit with less fuel. So there are ongoing studies in terms of ideal location. And the idea here, this is a picture of some students from Cebu putting up a rocket, and this rocket actually flew. No? This was in Capas, Tarlac, in Crow Valley. So we helped them, but really it was their effort. No? We want to promote this because we want to be sounding rockets, and there's a lot of technologies that go into this, and even industrial capabilities that go into a spaceport. So that should be in our near term, in our future of the country. Take advantage of our geographical, advantages, right? To exploit our geographical advantages. Next slide. Let me now go quickly to the downstream, which is the bulk really of our activities. We have sovereign satellites that we operate and control ourselves. And because of that, we are a spacefaring country. When you talk about spacefaring country, that is actually in the law. Our central goal of the Philippines is to become a spacefaring, space-capable nation. I did not invent those words. That's in the Philippine space policy. What does spacefaring mean? For some countries, it means your citizens must be faring in space. That means you have astronauts. Now, I've been asked, how about the Philippines? Should we have astronauts? You know, I tell them, it's not a question of whether we'll have astronauts. It's a question of how many we will have. Right, that's what we tell them. Now, of course, we don't have that yet. We need to have a solid body of science that supports the work of the astronauts. The next thing that they say is, well, you need to have capability to bring things to space. That makes you spacefaring. That means rockets. Well, yeah, okay, we're not quite there yet, but what is it that we do have? We have satellites that we operate and control ourselves. So when we say, this satellite, go over there, take a picture, send it back to us, that makes us a spacefaring nation. So we build more of that because that is what the national policy says we should do. And for reasons of creating this industrial base and addressing the many challenges in our country. But still, we use satellites of other countries pa rin, no? Like commercial subscriptions and also open data. I want to emphasize this message. If you're ever interested in using satellite images, you don't have to wait too long. We can point you in the direction of where you can get free satellite images. And that is courtesy of the Europeans and the Americans. The European Space Agency, through the Copernicus program, offers free and open satellite imagery. In fact, I brought one today of Igig in Cagayan, the hometown of Mr. Banata, and I'll show it to him later. Okay, then one more thing here about this slide. Disaster charter activated. When our country experiences typhoons, volcanic eruptions, other countries, so we activate this charter. The recent oil spill in Manila Bay, we activated this charter. What happens is other countries with their satellites flying overhead, they take pictures and they give it to us to help us. But guess what? Since we operate and control our satellites, if other countries activate the charter and they need help, we can help them as well. So that makes us a good citizen of international cooperation and leveraging goodwill. That is what our satellites do for us. Okay, why do we have to subscribe as well, pay commercial subscription? Because we don't know when the next volcano is going to erupt. We don't know when an earthquake is going to happen. And we have manifold concerns on food security, on environmental protection, climate change, etc. So we have to augment whatever satellites we operate and control with that of other countries. Okay, next. As far as capacity on the ground, there are already 3 ears on the ground that communicate with our satellites. Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. The one in Luzon is in Quezon City. You see that there. The one in Mindanao is in Davao. The largest one, 7 meter. The one in Iloilo is still operated by DOST. It is donated by the Japanese, by JICA. So we call them collectively PEDRO, Philippine Earth Data Resource Observation Center. the network of ground stations. Of course, when you have eyes in the sky and you have ears on the ground, what else do you need? You need computational muscle. You need high-performance computers, even a supercomputer in our country, because we want to be a knowledge economy. We need to ingest all of this data and process it. That's why we're using facilities like that of DOST, the core facility. It needs to be expanded. Okay, next slide. So, brings me to our future home, which will be in New Clark City. We recently signed an agreement with DCDA for a 50-year lease where we will start building our home. And among the things that we will build is a high-performance computing center which will be accessible to universities so we can start computing, processing this data, and adding more value on these satellite images and maps for governance and for agriculture, environmental protection, and disaster risk management. Next slide. Okay. I included this here because I don't know, Dado, if you're aware that Berkeley has a space center now. And so we're inspired by this as well. But anyway, we can maybe probably skip this. I'll show this to you later. But let's go to the next. Now, one more thing. We as a country, we've been using a lot of satellite images. The Europeans, when the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was here last year, she talked about space cooperation between Europe and the Philippines. In fact, in October, next month, we will inaugurate a mirror site for the European Space Agency here in the Philippines. PILSA will be hosting a mirror site for European space data. What that means is that we don't have to connect to the servers in Europe or wherever else. It's right here in our country. And that mirror site, that data center, will eventually not just serve the Philippines, it will also serve our neighbors. Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, etc. So we are in a way becoming a hub for satellite imagery and data in this part of the world. And out of this mirror site, we will run 3 services. Number 1, ground motion monitoring. There's a lot of talk about areas in the country that are subsiding, that are sinking, or maybe even sea level rise, the sea level is encroaching on coastlines. So we can see that from space. Number 2, land cover, land classification, whether it's agricultural, whether it's forest, or built-up areas, or bodies of water, we can increase the frequency nationwide of these maps from 5 years to 1 year. Number 3, benthic habitats. We have a lot of corals, seagrass. To the extent that light can penetrate water, our satellites can see underwater to that extent. So we can try to map seagrasses and corals near the coastline and do an inventory of that site. Next one. In 2023, we produced about 31,000 maps, and these are some examples of those maps. And accompanying those maps is about 121,000 person-hours of training. Because we realize it's not enough to just give out a map, we have to be able to tell people how to use the map and furthermore build capacity within those offices to start producing these maps themselves. So we've been going around different LGUs. Hopefully soon in Muntinlupa as well, we want to do this and we want to have a team inside the city to be able to ingest this kind of data and add value to it. Next slide. Okay, let's watch this video then. I think we're almost done. Is it playing? No? I don't think it is. But anyway, let's skip that. To bridge the value of this, after all, we are just a space agency. We don't make decisions on agriculture. We don't make decisions on land use. We don't make decisions on disaster risk reduction and management. That's why partnerships are key. So you see here some partnerships have been made with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources on the National Greening Program, with the Philippine Coast Guard on maritime domain awareness, with the Department of Social Settlements and Urban Housing, DSUR, on land use and human settlement monitoring, with Land Bank on analytics for agri-financing. We want this capability to pervade all of government and for these agencies with their mandates to start utilizing satellite images and space data as an additional tool for their decision making and policy making. Next. Maybe one good success story. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources last year came up with the headline where they were able to shut down an illegal mining operation in Mindanao on the strength of satellite images and information on the ground. To their credit, they acted on the information and they were able to avoid shut down an illegal mining operation, therefore avoiding further economic losses and damage to the environment. We have a partnership with DNR wherein we help them establish an internal office, a geospatial database office that starts using more satellite imagery so they can more effectively carry out their function in their mandate. And I quote Secretary Loizaga, Tony here, when she was asked in a budget hearing, how much is the budget of this new office that they just set up? She said, I quote, but because we have a Philippine Space Agency, nagagamit po namin yung anong meron sila. Diba? So at this point, walang extra outlay on GDO, basically tao lang ang budget. This is a model we want to replicate with other agencies in government, okay, and LGUs as well. Landslide maps, this is in Davao de Oro, this is the Office of Civil Defense. We're gratified whenever we see them using the satellite images that are produced. In this case, the value adding is, apart from having the image of the landslide, we overlaid it with the building footprints of the houses that were there affected by the landslide, with the goal of enabling the emergency responders to try to be more effective in responding to the emergency. So that is one other example. Next slide. You can see more examples from this ebook. This is my second to the last slide. You can download it for free. It's called Our Place in Space. Please do have a look. So you flip through that, you see there we're counting, we're mapping corn, we try to map onions, it's very hard. Also, corals underway, but identifying roads, identifying mango trees, distinguishing them from coconut trees using AI. By the way, one of the projects that we recently completed is a nationwide mangrove map. 300,000 hectares of mangroves were mapped by 2 people in the space agency in 2 days. How? Because they used AI. They trained a model to detect mangroves from a satellite image. But while that work is quick, what's not being said is that 8 months of data preparation before that, data cleansing and data preparation, before you even get to refine a model to start, press a button and say generate the map. But we know the map, one important lesson here, the AI generated map, we know it will have mistakes. But counterintuitively, what did we do? We released it to the public. Why? Because we said, please validate it. Right? And what happened was people started mobilizing. We gave them an app, say, go to your nearest mangrove, take a picture, tell us where we're wrong, tell us where we're right. And this is in partnership with the DNR. So we have local governments, we have schools, we have government officials going to the field, taking pictures of mangroves, and that's how we got the data back. And so this was used to refine the map further. Okay, I will end with a message from the President during the last State of the Nation address. Let's play this.
Since the nation's foray into space technology, our satellites in space have generated more than 51,000 maps, images, and spaceborne data for various purposes. These now provide us with vital information that guides our country's strategies and decision-making in agricultural development, urban planning, and environmental management, including the strengthening of our maritime domain awareness, to name but a few examples. Along with these discoveries, we are likewise in awe of our countrymen who have carved out their niche as pioneering space scientists and engineers in this emergent field, in collaboration with local space technology companies that provide an additional impetus. As we speak, 16 of our space engineers are in the United Kingdom resuming work on the development of the multispectral unit for land assessment, or the MULA satellite. Once completed, the MULA satellite will be our largest Earth observation satellite to be launched into space so far. May they inspire the next generation of Filipino students to follow their footsteps and reach for the stars.
And on that note, I thank everybody for your attention, and thank you.